Hi everybody, Matt Lawton here, Astrological Winds channel, and we're going to look at three things today. First, we're going to look at the monthly forecast for August, which is those medium level transit things, and then we're going to talk about this week's astrology, which is more of our short term weather forecast, and then we're going to look in particular at this full moon in Aquarius, which is today, Monday, August 3rd. Pretty big event. So first, let's get into the monthly, and there's just two things really I want to talk about in the monthly this month in August. And if you'll remember, Mars went into Aries in late June time, and I did a little bit on it then, and I did a follow-up on July on how the cycle of it was going to stay in Aries for the rest of the year, because we were going to get a retrograde Mars in the fall. So Mars, therefore, is going to make, like any transits that it's making to the slow-moving outer planets, it's going to make three times then. It's going to make it in direct motion, then when it goes retrograde back, and then in direct motion again when it goes direct after being retrograde. So all those transits are going to get, bigger, more spread out, more in the background of what's going on for the next 6 months pretty much. And Mars right now is in, like I said, in Aries, which is a cardinal sign. And if you'll remember, we've got Saturn, Pluto, and Jupiter this year, all in Capricorn, another cardinal sign. And they are the main drivers of a lot of the events we see going on in the world this year, which I've spoken about many times on the videos in the past. So anyway, what we have going on is when you have two planets that are in cardinal signs and aspect to one another, they're going to form a square or an opposition. So it's a tense aspect. And what we have going on is Mars is going to square Jupiter, Pluto, and Saturn in succession for the first time in August, which will set up a lot of the energy that we're going to deal with for the rest of the year, really, and really apex during the second retrograde hits in October. So the first one will be Mars hitting Jupiter. It'll square Jupiter actually this week. So this is part of the weekly now too, on Tuesday. And since Mars transits are pretty strong for several days, we'll be feeling it most of the week. And when Mars squares Jupiter, what we get is a powerful burst of energy, like this optimistic, zestful energy of wanting to push our actions forward on things that we want to have success with. That's Jupiter, like things we want to expand our world and grow. But the problem is Jupiter's in Capricorn, right? We've been talking about that all year. The weakest sign that Jupiter can be in the sign of what they call its fall. So it's been very difficult to move forward this year for all of us. We're being held back by like the things just kind of falling apart around us. So what Mars and Jupiter is like if you were going for a hike, it's like bushwhacking. It's like I'm just charging forward and I'm just going. I'm impulsive and I'm moving. Anything in my way, I'll find a way around it. I'll knock it down or whatever. But I don't need a path, don't need a plan. And that's what the problem with the Mars-Jupiter square can be then, is that despite having all this energy to move forward, we're not really paying attention to the details and many other things that need to be taken care of in order to get the final results that we want. So that's the key to this situation, is to try anything in your personal power world where you're using that energy, is to make sure that you're not getting sloppy, that you're not pushing stuff under the rug to be dealt with later, because all that stuff is going to come up again when you see your results and them being not what you wanted them to be. So, and then in a bigger sense, like the Mars Jupiter will, like, you know, can push larger groups of people in that would have the effect of pushing you into a situation where people are making decisions based on what's going on in the moment, not realizing that later on other stuff is going to come up and will force everybody to have to adjust again. So once that, you know, so we have that this week, and then in the middle of the month, Mars will perfect its square to Pluto. And that's when we'll see where the mistakes are. Pluto shines the light on all the stuff that was hidden. So, you know, unfortunately, most people's reaction to that is to get very angry and resentful. And that's why Mars and Pluto energy together in a 10 square for people who are lower energy, not as aware of what's going on around them, they can act out of that because of Mars, and they can act violently. So like the Mars-Pluto square for people who have a proclivity towards violent acts, that's the type of thing that can really push them over the edge to do that. Now, to use it in a positive way, yes, we're going to still see the heavy stuff, the decisions that maybe were made during Mars Jupiter we're going to see how they messed us up, you know, which is still going to get us angry. But what we need to have is to look at that and adjust our actions, transform our actions, and realize we're in it for the long haul. Like Mars, Pluto is like the marathon runner. He's in it for the long haul. So you're releasing energy in an even way so that you can get to your goal, you know, and it's the other thing, it's endurance. It's like persistence, you know, like never say die attitude. So that's the way we can use that positively. And then we're going to go into the Mars square Saturn at the end of the month, which is going to be even more difficult. Why? Because Mars at that point will be starting to slow down, getting ready to go retrograde, and it's already in its shadow all this month. We're already in Mars retrograde shadow. So it's going to be slowing down by then. Saturn, which is retrograde too in Capricorn right now, will also actually be starting to slowly slow down. This is going to go direct later in about a month or so after that. So when planets slow down, their energy is really emphasized. It's really brought on much more strongly. And Mars square Saturn is all about restricted movement, restricted ability to act. Restrictions can come from the circumstances, can come from authorities, can from, you know, just the situation that we're in, which is once again very fitting of the times where most of the world is in a situation where they're dealing with a pandemic that, you know, is requiring less activity socially, and therefore like restricting much of what we can do. So that is like the big thing going on in August. The other thing is Uranus is actually going to go retrograde on the 15th. So he's slowing down too, and will be joining all the other outer planets retrograde at this time. So really on an individual level, I think what that is a lot of people are going to step back during this time, and especially during a time when we have a lot of time to self-reflect and say, you know, what kind of changes do I want to bring into my daily life and just shake myself out of like the doldrums that I'm in. So I think people are going to spend a lot of that time reflecting on that the next 4 to 5 months while Uranus is retrograde. And then also, I would not be surprised on a social level if a lot of the protesting, because Uranus is all about protest, rebellion, revolution, change, so it's driving a lot of the protests going on right now. I wouldn't be surprised if that kind of takes a step back a little bit, maybe from the virus, maybe from authorities coming down heavy-handedly, or maybe from people just, once again, going back in and reassessing their strategies and where they want to, you know, take that next. So that's our monthly stuff. So now the weekly, Monday is the day of the full moon. in Aquarius. But let me go through the rest of the week first and come back to the full moon in Aquarius, because that's what I really want to leave you guys the impression of this week. It's really the most important thing going on. So for the rest of the week, there is a little activity, including on Monday, we have Mercury opposite Saturn. Now, if you remember last week, Mercury was opposite both Jupiter and Pluto, so it's doing that same thing that, you know, Mars is going to do, hitting one of the Capricorn planets after another, and it was, and so like, it's going to be opposite Saturn, and what that really is like, you can really see yourself like mentally or intellectually in contrast to the relationships you're having. Like, so what it can really do is like have you like in serious discussions and negotiations, kind of like one-on-one with people, getting into it really in depth. But it makes you realize basically how alone everyone is. Like every man is an island, or every human is an island, or every person is in their own boat on the same ocean, and that no one can ever fully get into your mind and like really understand you. So there's like really a degree of like isolation or loneliness inside from that. And almost like, you know, depressing or sad to realize that. But at the same time, the mind is very focused and good with details, and it's a great time to be one-on-one with someone else that you're trying to hammer an agreement out with, if both parties have the right attitude, and because you can really get into the details of it and get everything you need. And it's a good time even to get advice, like in one-on-one situations, from people who are more experienced than you, or older than you, or have a degree of expertise in something that you may not. So that's how you use that energy, but it can be mentally depressing a bit. Tuesday, like I said, is the Mars-Jupiter square, which I talked about already, and that will be in effect all week. So that drive to get ahead, to succeed in something, but make sure you take care of the details. Wednesday, we got a really nice Venus is right at the end of Gemini this week, and is going to go into Cancer later in the week. So on Wednesday, it's going to conjunct that North Node that went into Gemini a month or so ago, a couple months ago. And so like, that's when, you know, that's the Dharma. That's that same thing I've been telling people about. One of the few things I see as an answer to a lot of the stress that's going on in the world right now is the connection to people in your local area, to the people you see and interact with every day, whoever that may be, or every week. You know, people that you're in your neighborhood, or, you know, anyone who falls into your everyday and you're communicating with them. It's a really, that is one of the big solutions right now, is to share information on that level, get things done on that level. So Venus in Gemini coming to that North Node will really like get people relating, open up the lines of communications, and make you feel like you're in it together on doing certain things that are like almost like a destiny related together. So that's exact Wednesday. And then Friday, Venus does go into Cancer. So after months of being in Gemini, which is so because of the retrograde Venus in May and early June, 6 weeks of retrograde has kept Venus in Gemini for months, where normally it would have only been in it for weeks. So it's finally going to be free of Gemini and move on to Cancer. And I think Cancer, you know, Venus really likes Cancer for the most part. The key to Venus in Cancer is whether we're feeling like we're getting emotional support or not. If we feel like we are, we're in a good zone, and we really will spread affection and love and a caring attitude towards anyone around us, but really strongly towards our closest friends, people we consider our friends, and our family. So, and what's cool is when Venus is feeling emotionally supported, our family and friends, the ripple of it can grow wider, and she's open to bringing more more people into that circle. So that's really nice. But if she's not feeling emotionally supported, it's not good. All those negative Cancer things come up. The jealousy of others, possessiveness of family and friends, manipulating others to try to get the emotional support you want. So those are all the traits that end up chasing people away. So, and then the one other thing with Venus in Cancer is involvement with our mothers, our moms. It will actually usually increases during Venus in Cancer. And the one last aspect I want to mention for this week, on the weekend, on Sunday exact, Mercury now moving forward and moving in Leo will trine Chiron in Aries, and that's just a really good time where, you know, to be able to open the lines of communication up between you and others and share gifts with one another that have kind of like a healing or effect on one another, and the information that you learn actually helps you and helps heal you, things like that, and vice versa. It's a nice harmony. All right, so that's the weekly stuff, and the main thing this week and today, and that will be in effect for the next couple weeks, is this full moon in Aquarius, and it's at 12 degrees, and that means the moon in Aquarius is opposite the sun in Leo. So you can look at where 12 degrees is in your house, in your chart, which the houses are of Aquarius and Leo, and that will tell you the axis or the two houses that are acting in your life and the areas of your life where this full moon will really be affecting you. So, like, first off, a full moon in Aquarius, you know, Aquarius moon really values like intellect and logic and science and technology, like mental skills. And what it really is driving at is to get equality and justice on a socioeconomic and cultural level. That's really what Aquarius wants to do. And you can see that is happening as we are going into the age of Aquarius. That's what a lot of this stuff going on in the world is, the Aquarian energy acting on people as a group to bring socioeconomic and racial and sexual and any other justice so that we have equality in society. That is the age humans are moving into for the next 2,000 years. So this full moon has a very much affinity to that age. And what that Aquarius moon is saying to the sun in Leo is like, yes, everybody has a unique talent that makes them special and is a gift. But if it's just used for yourself, then it's really like just egotistical and selfish, you know, and prideful and vain. And so what the moon in Aquarius is saying is, please take that gift and do something with it that is going to benefit all. That's going to bring that equality and justice. That's going to fight for everybody, for the greater good. Take your talent and use it for the greater good. So that's what, you know, is going on between them. But this is what really makes this full moon explosive, is we've got Uranus, which I said was slowing down, going to be going retrograde in about 2 weeks, less than 2 weeks really, in Taurus. And all of them are in fixed signs. So once again, we get the square happening. Uranus and Taurus to the sun in Leo, Uranus and Taurus to the moon in Aquarius, setting up a T-square, which is a very tense aspect in the chart. And when Uranus comes in, Uranus is the tension breaker. Uranus is the one who breaks the glass with, you know, psh, and boom. So, you know, when Uranus went into Taurus a year or so ago, talked a lot about how Uranus going through an Earth sign was indicative of a lot of the things that were starting to happen because of accelerated global climate change due to humans' contribution to that process. And that Uranus is, we have to remember, Uranus is the ruler of natural disasters too, and events that we have no control over that suddenly change everything. Like the tsunami that hit Indonesia in 2004 was Uranus energy. The Fukushima nuclear accident was Uranus energy. Things that, like, suddenly on one moment, everything shifts for everybody who has to deal with that reality. And with Uranus, that's usually the whole human race. Outer planets do not really care about our individual lives. What they care about is the evolution of humanity in a very general sense, and they will take us there kicking and screaming if we don't willingly go there. So what Uranus does is the ruler of shocking events, revolutionary events, both man and nature. So what we had when Uranus is in Taurus was we had the recognition that Taurus, which is our money, our possessions, our assets, all the things that make us feel secure, even the things we value and how we feel about ourselves, those were the things that were damaging or accelerating this process that was like creating global climate change on an accelerated rate that systems could not naturally keep up with. So Uranus was really showing us that, and now it's added, coronavirus, and it's added protesters in the streets, which is the rebellious, individualistic energy that Uranus is. And remember, excuse me, Uranus is a co-ruler of Aquarius. That full moon's in Aquarius, and the age we're going into is Aquarius. Uranus is going to bring us into that age, and so all these events are things that are shaking us out of the routine that we were in, the things that made us feel secure. Uranus is showing are not that secure. And I think on an individual level, with Uranus in a tense aspect like this, there's a lot of excitement in the air. You don't necessarily even take it like negative. Like it's almost like it definitely is individualistic and it's rebellious, but it creates excitement. But it's also very edgy, cutting edge, nervy, edgy energy. So like for an individual, the best way to use this Uranus energy is to just go with it and don't make any assumptions that anything you see going on is the way it's going to be, or latch onto it for a long-term thing. It's almost like, I guess I'm not a surfer myself, but I would imagine it's like being a surfer. Like, this is this wave, just ride this wave this way. This is this wave, ride this way. It's like adjust to the moment that's going on, but don't have any expectation of the way it's going to end. But like change is definitely going to happen, and there's going to be a lot of excitement. And like this week for an individual, you may get some like phrase or idea from some person, maybe just a passerby, maybe an overheard conversation, maybe a direct conversation from a good friend, maybe something you read on social media, maybe something you read somewhere else. But there's going to be something that really like gives you some kind of exciting new idea. And the way to to honor that Uranus is to break out of your routine purposely. Then it won't shake you up as much. So it's like if you're getting a lot of downloads, like the energy is going to be so frenetic that it's going to be hard to keep it all. So you need to write it down, because things are going to be coming at you quickly, and just, make sure you get the idea so you can come back to it and give it some depth, because you're not going to have the time to this week, so that's on an individual level, honoring that energy is like choosing to do something different, basically, to break the patterns that you're stuck in. And on a bigger level, this is such intense, like, revolutionary energy pulsing through humans together right now. So these protests, and there's so many things, like the prison riots, the sports guys banding together to tell, to claim their power, the people claiming their power, the cities claiming their power from the states claiming their power from the federal. I mean, all that stuff is Uranus energy, and it's just like pushing us into the age of Aquarius. It's like we need to change a system that is breaking down. And there's a lot of ways to do that. And all the inequality has to end in order for like that to occur. So, in the 60s, Uranus conjuncted Pluto in Virgo, and a lot of the ideas of equality and justice and economic justice and environmental issues came up. And in Virgo, in an Earth sign that should have been conjuncted again, the Earth issues came up, and it seeded a lot of the things that during the 2000s ended up being like turning into a revolutionary movement that created both Occupy and the Tea Party when Uranus was squaring Pluto 40 or so years after the 60s, 40, 50 years, so it's a very revolutionary energy. So now it's gone into Taurus, and that's the things it's shaking up now. It's shaking up those things that are the things that are responsible for getting us to that point where the way we've misused resources really and have thrown a system out of balance. That's one of the interesting things about Taurus too. It's all about rhythms, Taurus. And Uranus is showing we're all out of rhythm. We're out of rhythm here, So that's really some interesting stuff. And then the other thing is like the traditional ruler of Uranus is Saturn. And Saturn's not too happy right now. Even though it's in Capricorn again, Pluto and Jupiter have shown that it's failing, like its structure is failing, and that it needs change, and it's going retrograde right now, and there's a lot of people trying to try one last time to see if some old system will work, and it's not working. It almost seems like it makes the situation worse, so I mean, that's what we've got going on with this full moon is really putting that openly in the light, like the full moon does, for everyone to see. And it really is like a situation where the tension is there, and the events are above an individual. It's almost like you're being sucked along with that, and you just have to react. Like I said, ride it like a wave, do things differently. That's what's going to honor that energy. And I'm not going to say make it easy, but makes it easier to flow. And remember, this is where we're headed. This is like the birth of a new age, and it's sloppy, it's exciting, it's edgy, it can be violent at times, it can be all that stuff that we're all going through together as a society, and it's affecting our lives, is really going to be really under this microscope of this full moon with this Uranus energy. And you can just see so many examples of that even this past weekend as we got to the full moon, of just people standing up for their rights as individuals and together as a group, and saying, no, this is the way I'm going. I'm not going along with this old pattern anymore. So like I said, don't jump into any conclusions. Don't try to force energy a certain way. try to like embrace change. Do something different. Honor your unique self, express yourself. All that stuff. Do all that stuff that like honors that energy. And we're heading into a time of change. And this fall, like I've said before, this month is going to show us this Mars energy, how intense it can be. And unfortunately, many people react negatively to that. It's up to the rest of us to act positively to that and try to bring the balance in that nature is always seeking, even through us. All right, this is Matt Lawton. This is the Astrological Winds channel. I'm available for all kinds of readings, natal readings, predictive readings, elections for the best time and date, horary questions, group stuff. So like, if you have any interest in that, matthue823@gmail.com is my email. Please join the channel as a follower. That's helpful. And if everyone can pass the link on to at least one person who they think might be interested, that would really be helpful too. I'm offering a free service, so it would really be helpful if you guys could help spread the service out. And love to help you on an individual level. Just contact me. We can talk prices. I don't turn anyone down. We'll figure something out to help you out. All right, until next week when we look at the astrology for next week, it's Matt Lawton on the Astrological Winds channel signing off. Remember, ride that wave this week.